Hi, good evening, everyone. It is Monday, the 20th of April, and tonight we are musing about wedding flowers. This is probably going to be me mainly talking because this is my speciality. Well, I hope it's my speciality. If it's not, I need to. Oh, hang on. What have we got?
There we
Oh,
go.
have we got Lucky Heather
Yep,
and Thistle?
buttonholes. Yep, thistle and some heather.
Excellent. There we go. Claire, where's your blue hydrangea? So look, they keep them all in the background. It's not just my speciality. Here she comes. Wow, lots of blue hydrangeas. There we go. Right. So,
Dried
uh,
ones here as well. Look. These
oh,
were
what
blue.
was it?
They're dried
Oh,
now.
ah, okay. So, right, wedding flowers. So one of the big things I find is that people massively underestimate flowers and their impact and how they transform a space. So they're not just a nice extra, they're one of the biggest visual elements in your entire wedding. They set the tone, they create the atmosphere, and they enhance your colour scheme or theme. And guests photograph so many different areas of flowers, whether it's arches or flower walls or centerpieces, and they remember them as well. They don't just remember the look, they remember the smell. And it's all about creating that atmosphere with fresh flowers. And then the problems that we get is that couples come into us with a Pinterest board or an Instagram screenshot that's full of huge statement florals, ceiling installations, full tables, huge floral arches, full oil florals, and the list goes on and on. And then they allocate a budget that realistically is only going to cover a bridal bouquet and a couple of buttonholes. And I get it. It's such a roller coaster from the initial, we want this and we want that, and all these beautiful images. This is exactly what we want. This is what we want to book. And we've booked this, and this was such high cost, and we've booked this. And, it's all one big sort of excitement. And then we get excited. We're going to create something that's magazine worthy. Our little eyes light up and we're all good to go. And then the allocated budget comes, or the money they have left to spend on flowers. But no one ever really explains this to you. And then you set your budgets assuming that flowers are going to be a totally different amount to what you think. And it's not just buying the flowers, and this is where we sort of struggle as well, is it's not just paying for the flowers. You're paying for our experience and sourcing quality seasonal blooms, the conditioning and the prep. It doesn't take hours, it takes days. We don't just pick them up out of a bucket or grab them off the shelf, shove them in a bouquet arrangement, and we're done. It's all the mechanics and the structure. They don't just stand there perfect on their own. Sometimes we have to wire things. Sometimes we wire hundreds and hundreds of stems just to get them to stand in the right direction. And it's storing the made up arrangements correctly at the right temperature. Like 35-degree heat and hydrangeas just does not work. Claire's do because they're artificial, but the real ones just do not survive at all in 35-degree heat. They're called hydrangea because the hydra bit is the bit where that implies that they need a lot of water, and they really, really do. Then, of course, we have to transport everything safely and securely. Nobody wants to arrive at a venue with a van full of crushed arrangements. That's not a good look. I'm telling you now. That's it's one of the big things is getting everything transported. And if you think a huge van, I've got quite a big van, but unless you transport everything properly and layer everything properly, it's only one small flat surface. You can't ram it full of flowers. You have to make sure everything's packed properly. And then we've got the installation time and the skill to make everything look effortless. And of course, flowers are perishable. Back to the summer, 35-degree heat and hydrangeas. It is a struggle to keep things in the right condition, the right temperature. And that goes for winter as well. So in the colder months when we need things to open, we need a little bit of warmth. So we do have a few tricks of the trade to keep things going and open things up a bit quicker if we need to. But we are massively governed by the conditions, the climate. And then, of course, they're not hire items, real flowers, of course. We'll move on to the artificial in a minute. and they can't be reused at next weekend's wedding or in the week for a funeral. And yes, I have been asked that before. So it did surprise me. So when they're done well and they're powerful and they elevate a venue instantly, creating that wow moment when the guests walk in and they bring everything together in a way that nothing else quite can. But they are an afterthought sometimes. And if they are, you can feel it, your guests feel it, and we feel it. The room feels flat and disconnected, like something's missing, even if you can't quite put your finger on what that is. So,
I was just going to say, Sarah, when you talk about the installation, I was really shocked. I don't know if anyone else or whether it was just this part of the Midlands woke up this morning and the cars were just solid ice frost. There was such an overnight frost here in April, and yet it had been so warm. And I know certainly for me as a marquee venue, we can't control temperatures overnight. So we never allow fresh floral installations until the day of a wedding. Because, you know, if we'd have had a wedding last night and the flowers had gone in, and they say there was scraping, I woke up to the sound of ice being scraped off windscreens this morning. So I guess as well, there's a certain amount with fresh flowers that you can probably prepare, and obviously if you're making arrangements like the days leading up to it, but the installation for most venues, certainly with fresh, would not be able to be done until the wedding day, would it?
we find the problems worse in the summer than the winter because of keeping things cool. Generally, we need to keep things cool, but obviously we don't want things frozen anyway. Like at Christmas time when we're doing our wreath making classes, everything lives outside because that's where it's supposed to be, because it's seasonal foliage. So it's absolutely fine. You know, the moisture helps to keep it alive. That's why you wreaths on your door last, because they're exposed to the elements. But then in the summer, you know, if you go, it's the same with cakes. If you go and take a cake to a marquee venue and it happens to be where the sun's coming round first thing in the morning, the cake is not going to be standing by the time the guests arrive. And the same with the flowers. You know, everything tends to have a water source. We tend to suggest that bridesmaids have their bouquets in vases of water if they want to keep them, reuse them on top table, by the cake table, that sort of thing, so they have got a water supply. And mostly arrangements are either in vases or in oasis, so that they do have a water supply. But I mean, even in winter, hotels have the heating on, marquees have to have the heating on. It's a bit of an unknown quantity, so we have to keep them in the best condition possible we can for as long as we can. And I do have some weddings, we look at the weather, especially in the summer months, and the couple will say, well, what time are the flowers being delivered? As late as possible. Literally as late as possible. The photographer wants my bouquet at such and such a time. That's absolutely fine, but where are you going to keep it for the next 5 hours? That's like not going to happen. We do quite often, and this horrifies people, quite often put flowers in the cellar at hotels because it's the best place. It's cool and moist. Perfect. So we do quite often fill a cellar, and when the venues have got 2 cellars, like a main cellar for the main bar and then one just for the wedding area, that's really useful as well, because we know that people aren't going to be wandering in, changing barrels and moving things around and knocking the arrangements. But the cellar, sometimes the cellar is the better place to keep them rather than us, and we can keep things pretty cold. We have fridges, but sometimes the cellar is just the best place for things. So, right, so fresh versus artificial. So let's talk about because this comes up all the time. So let's talk about the benefits and you know, what we think is better. It's not necessarily about what's better, actually. It's about what you're trying to achieve and what's better for you as a couple. So fresh flowers give you something that artificial flowers simply can't. It's the way that they move and the way that they look and the way that they smell and the texture that it gives to your arrangements, your bouquets, your buttonholes. Humans, we're driven by our senses. We're driven by sight, smell, touch, feel. And with the real flowers, that slight imperfection, the natural feel that just makes everything look elevated without trying too hard. And I personally find with artificial flowers, it's much harder to make them look good. That's just my opinion, but I find it much easier to make real flowers look good. They respond to the space, they catch the light differently, they bring a kind of energy to the room and makes the room feel alive. And that's not just flowers, that's foliage too. We work in a group that we've mentioned many a times, and there's a lady there who provides plant hire. So she's got the same thing. It's that fresh feeling, that feeling. It's good for you, isn't it, to have plants around you, have greenery around you. So that's why high-end weddings almost always lean towards fresh florals. Can't get my words out now. It doesn't automatically mean, though, that fresh is better for you. Fresh flowers are perishable, as we've discussed before. They're a one-day experience and they require careful handling, setup time and the right conditions. Flowers are an investment. So artificial flowers, they have come a long way. They are so much better quality. I actually had a clear out of some boxes today, some of the original artificial flowers that I've had for too many years probably. And just the look of them, I was just like, oh my gosh, that we actually used to use these and these were good. That's how they were then. They're not anymore. And it was, what are we doing with these? Bin. It's heartbreaking, but they've come on so much now. We just can't bear to keep the stuff that's not the quality that it is now. So good fake florals can look beautiful in photos, and I think especially at a distance in things like arches or flower walls, things that aren't right up close to you and your guests, I think they're great. They're reusable, they're not affected by heat or cold, and they can be more cost effective if they're used properly. So Claire and I have just done some styled photo shoots using entirely artificial florals, and they looked fab. Yeah, even if I do say so myself.
They really did. They really looked. And as I say, on the photos, I think some people would be super hard pushed to tell if they were artificial or real flowers. Yeah. Absolutely stunning, the arrangements you created.
They were really good. And I had it a lot when I used to take just real flowers to wedding fairs and things. People would say, oh my gosh, are they real? Yeah. And that used to baffle me, like, how can you not tell they're real? And then they get like, with the fake ones, it's, oh my God, they're plastic. And like, well, I mean, they're not plastic. Yes, they are. I think, obviously, as a florist, I find it really easy to spot. And people send me a picture and say, I want this bouquet. And so that's absolutely fine. That's all artificial. No, I want real. Okay, that's fine. We'll look at seasonal flowers, which we will move on to. So with the photo shoot, we're eagerly awaiting the professional photos from Amy Takes Photos, and we will share some images with you when we get those, but we are being patient and just releasing some sneak peeks now on our own socials at the moment. So the truth that most people won't say is that a lot of artificial flowers do look artificial. I find especially foliage and gyp, anything green, anything sort of stemmy, unless you're spending a lot of money, they can look really sort of plasticky, especially close up. And when they do, I think it flattens the wedding. They don't move, they don't catch the light the same way, and they can make even a really well styled setup feel staged and just not quite right. So which is better? It's, do you want your wedding to feel luxurious and immersive, or practical and controlled? And both are valid, but they are both completely different atmospheres, and neither is right or wrong. It's what works for you. So my advice would be, if florals are a key part of your vision, then go fresh and do them properly. And if they're not a priority, consider high quality artificial, but keep it minimal and intentional. I often suggest to my couples, if they're juggling budget and practicality with emotion and vision, that choosing artificial flowers for arches, room and aisle flowers, centerpieces, all that works great in artificial, but go for fresh flowers with buttonholes, bouquets and corsages. And in case you're wondering what a corsage is, it's just a buttonhole for women, traditionally worn by mother of the bride and mother of the groom. along with your ceremony table or altar table arrangements as well. I always think that's great for photos. And I'm all for reusing as well. So once that's been out for your ceremony, I would then move it across to your top table, sweetheart table, gift table, somewhere else. I always say to make more use of things if you can. And many couples want to keep fresh flowers from their wedding day. So this can either be by choosing artificial bouquets and buttonholes that you can keep forever and give to your bridesmaids and your groomsmen and your mum or your nan or whoever wants to keep them, stick them in a vase in your toilet, or you can have fresh flowers preserved. And there are some great companies around who do this. And I think we've all got contacts that can do this if anybody wants this done. And that can be a whole bouquet or just a few stems from arrangements. And I've seen them in paperweight, set in resin, in photo frames. The possibilities are sort of endless as to what they can do really with preservation. I also suggest gifting the fresh flower arrangements to a wedding guest, so letting somebody from each table take their centrepiece, or also take them to graves of loved ones no longer with us. I'm all for sort of reusing things. And then that's reusing, repurposing where you can. It helps with your budget, whether it's real or artificial. And it also keeps your wedding as sustainable as possible. You're not paying for double the amount of arrangements when we can move things around. So
I was going to say, Sarah, on that, if you had a couple that came to you, like with my obsession of blue hydrangeas, but I'm getting married in, let's say, November, would you advise them to go down the artificial route just because of sourcing blue hyd? Because am I right in thinking that in some of the winter months, the hydrangeas are like dyed and not natural for the blue colours, or is that a myth? Have I heard that?
So hydrangea colour, I believe, comes from, now I'm not a grower, and I'm not a gardener. If you see my garden, you'll know I'm not a grower. So I believe it comes from the acidity in the soil.
Right. Okay.
This might be a myth I better Google this actually. This might be a myth I've been taught, but I'm sure I got told it came from the acidity in the soil. But
again, if a flower's not seasonal, I'm assuming it's obviously going to be a lot more expensive, but it's obviously going to be a lot harder to get as well, right? So
yeah.
If a couple is like getting married in November and let's say they love hydrangeas and sunflowers, then it might be an idea for them to consider kind of artificial. I know you're going to come on to seasonal flowers, but I'm just thinking that, you know, talking about sustainability and tips that you know, we all talk, don't we, about when you choose to have your wedding, and we've talked about wedding dates and how to choose that. But maybe people, when they're choosing their wedding date, don't automatically think of the flowers they want, and perhaps later on they might come to that decision. So I guess that's a way
definitely they definitely seem to be an afterthought with a lot of people. It's something they think that we'll sort that. You know, something that everybody has, we've got to sort. But it never seems to be, or not never, but quite often it isn't a main feature in the budget planning. So I think everybody starts sort of with venue, the photographer. They seem to be like the main things that they think of, and ceremony, whatever that might be. But things get overlooked, like Hayley's. Like flowers, like magicians, you know, like they all seem to be the afterthought. I don't think anybody gets engaged and says, right, all my life I've been dreaming about having a Kaylee at my wedding or having a magician at my wedding. Maybe they do, I don't know. But they don't say, oh, I know exactly, I definitely know that I want to get married in December because I want my wedding full of berries. It doesn't happen. I think the whole excitement of getting engaged and sort of starting your wedding planning journey and finding your venue and that sort of thing, I think it just takes over. And that's when it's either people with a larger budget or people who've left their wedding later who tend to go for the extras, who are the ones who tend to sort of go all out and really sort of think about, yes, I want to get married at this time of year because I want these flowers. Sunflowers is one I really get asked weird times to have. We've got sunflowers in June at a wedding at the moment. So we do try and grow some things a little bit out of season if we know that we're going to need them, just in case. We do have some fantastic suppliers. And I also work with a nursery, the flower one, not the child one, in Stratford. So I do try and get stuff grown there if I can. Flown not grown was the whole slogan, I don't know, about 10 years ago or whatever it was. It's not always possible. We as a climate here cannot grow all year round hydrangeas, sunflowers. It's not possible. So a lot of flowers are imported and do come via Holland from all over the world. A lot of things come from Kenya, a lot of places in Africa. We get a lot of stuff coming from Africa. Italy, we get a lot of foliage from. So we do, well, we grow what we can, but we can't always do it. So if you've got certain flowers in mind, then you definitely need to choose your time of year of getting married if you're specific on certain flowers. And it's also about the cost as well. So seasonal wedding flowers are cheaper because it's supply and demand. So again, as I said, something that couples often overlook, but it can make or break your budget and your overall look. So again, fall in love with Pinterest images, Instagram stories, Instagram reels with all these fantastic florals, loads of peonies, or Bridgerton look is all sort of spring and fresh florals, and then want to get married in December. You're just not going to get those flowers. So technically you can, as I said, source out of season flowers, but they will be more expensive, as you said, way more expensive. Hydrangeas is one of them. I remember in my early days, many years ago, hydrangeas, yeah, no problem. Yeah. The wedding was a year in advance. Yeah, they're available. Had a quick look on my supplies. Yeah, they can get force grown. It's fine. Yeah, but no problem. And when I came to buy them, they were £8 something per stem.
Wow.
I hadn't factored that in because I had no idea, because I was naive in it. It was many, many years ago, and I was absolutely gobsmacked and way out of pocket. That's my fault entirely. If anything like that ever happens, I never go back to my couples because that's my own fault. But yeah, so I could not believe something that is potentially, I don't know, £1 a stem, maybe at times in season, to be that much more is just crazy. And also difficult to keep going in the winter again with the heating on, or in the summer in the blistering heat. Not a good one, but yeah, and expensive as well. Things out of season tend to be lower quality as well and far less reliable. So I always say, if I'm sourcing something like the sunflowers that are sourcing for a June wedding, we have to look at the possibility that we're going to have to put artificial within the reel to get the sunflowers in. We may not be able to get them. And I always explain this to my couples because I just like to be transparent, and just so that everybody knows, we try our best, we always will, but we can't go against nature. They're also artificial, no. Out of season flowers have likely been imported, force grown, flown in, which is shorter lifespan and potentially less impact on the day. Whereas seasonal flowers are at their absolute best because that's obviously they're in season. Better colours, stronger stems, more availability, and often better value for money. So the magic happens with the right flowers at the right time of year, in the right light, with the right venue and the right conditions. Most elegant weddings don't fight the season and they lean into it. So spring is soft and fresh, like the Bridgerton style, like with like the lovely garden flowers. Summer, abundant peonies in full bloom. You get some massive heads on peonies and they're fully open, and the smell sometimes is amazing. I am finding that a lot of going a little bit off topic, a lot of real flowers now don't have the smell that they used to. I always ask my couples if smell's important to them, and then I suggest things that are going to be nicely scented for them, and freesias is one that always gives a really good smell in the room. So yeah, a little bit off, but I think it's important to have things that have that smell.
I noticed that we there's quite a few roses now that are grown, aren't they, that don't really have a scent at all to them. I don't know whether it's done to grow them better or stronger or whatever, but yeah, I noticed there's quite a few roses now, and that you, if you want a scent, it's a different choice to, you know, the colour, or it's, which you just think is mad, right? I think even when you said about the sunflowers, I would just think, well, if it's a June wedding, surely sunflowers are around, but obviously June isn't the month for them. I would just automatically assume, you know, so I think probably lack of knowledge, isn't it, for a lot of people? And I think maybe because, like, with people see certain things in supermarkets, they just assume that's available all year round and that kind of thing. But obviously it's different quantities and you're doing different things with them. So yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it, to kind of think about the complexity of it, to your choices, and actually it really kind of needs to be one of the first choices you're making if it's a real kind of on your top 5 wish list of having a certain flower. I guess you need to really consider the wedding dates and the style and the theme and stuff of your wedding.
But sort of with simple flowers like daffodils and sunflowers and tulips and things like that, think back to when you were at school. So you grew sunflowers to take home in a pot for the school holidays, and then they were there sort of, you know, over summer. And like tulips, you know, tulips for Mother's Day, as the early tulips, depending on when Mother's Day falls, but yeah, early tulips. Daffodils for Easter. So I think, and obviously just look around and see what's around. We driving along. Was it coming back? Yeah, it was coming back from the photo shoot that we did with you last week. Yeah. Bluebells are so dense at the moment. It's bluebell season. So yeah, I think back to sort of when you were a kid and what you did and what you can see out and about now. Half of my garden, my daffodils are gone, and the other half they're out. But the one side is in full sun all day and the other side is in shade. So the shady ones are still there and the sunny ones have gone because they're not a warm. And we had some great weather, didn't we? Was it last week or the week before? So yeah, they've took their toll and they've gone, I'm afraid. But yeah, it's about looking around. You can ask your florist. Any florist should be able to give you a good sort of selection to use for your season. And a lot of people do find they just want the colour or the look. They're not bothered about the flowers. And I always ask in consultations, are there any flowers you like or don't like? Some people say, I do not want gerbras or I do not want roses. So yeah, whether it's seasonal or not, the sort of basic question is, what do you like and what don't you like? Okay, so I think the other thing I will say is, if talking about the seasons and the flowers, red roses around Valentine's Day are always going to be expensive. Red and white flowers around Christmas are always going to be expensive. And any flowers around Mother's Day are always going to be expensive. And that is because it's supply and demand. And that's not from the florists themselves. That's from the suppliers and the growers and the transporters. And there's also things like International Mother's Day that hype up the prices. I think it's May in America. And that hikes up the prices too because flowers are grown all over the world. So my takeaway on the whole flower subject is, if they matter to you, prioritise them. If they don't, keep them minimal but intentional. Don't sit in the middle on the fence expecting maximum impact from minimum investment, because that's where the disappointment lies. And weddings should never feel disappointing. Do you guys have any questions? Any flower stories? Anything to do with flowers?
What's your favourite flower?
Oh.
As an industry expert.
Work with?
Okay, both. One to work with and then one to just for pleasure at home in a beautiful arrangement.
Okay, so summer peonies. When they're open, peonies frustrate me. So peonies are in a very, very tight ball for ages, and you wait and wait and wait. And you go out shopping in the morning and you come home in the afternoon and they're out. And then you go to bed, you get up the next day and they're gone. So peonies frustrate me, but it's not quite that quick, but while they're out, they really excite me. And I noticed that my early peonies are out in the garden this week, which I was very excited about, much to everybody else's horror as I'm skipping down the garden going. So yeah, I love peonies. I love wax flower as well. So wax flower is a woody stem with tiny little white flowers, and it smells lovely. I like wax flower, and I hate gyp
Wow.
with a passion.
Are you allowed to say that as a wedding florist, right?
Nope.
Gyp, just a staple of what everybody thinks that they want.
I hate it. I absolutely hate it. It smells like wee most of the time. It makes the walk go a funny colour. Bits fall off. It goes all leggy, and I just no. I hate it. I hate gyp. And my little heart sinks when someone says, "Oh yeah, the vision is for all my 15 bridesmaids to have just gyp in the bouquets," and I'm like, I hate gyp. Put that out there now. I hate gyp. Please don't use gyp. No, go with whatever you want to go with.
Just
Gyp is available all year round. It's a great filler and a great all-season product. Some roses, though, roses are available all year round. We have no problem with roses.
I was going to say, as a venue, my biggest kind of floral decor hate is pampas grass.
Well, you know what that means, don't you?
What?
No, again, I don't know whether this is hearsay or not, but apparently if you've got pampas grass outside your house, it means you're a swinger.
Oh, yeah, I know. I heard that. I have heard that before. I don't like it because no matter, and I work with you and I work with some great florists, but no matter how much hairspray you put on the pampas grass, and I don't know if that's an inside trade secret I've just let go, no matter how much hairspray you put on the pampas grass, the damn stuff gets everywhere. And especially when you're an outdoor venue, and especially when you're a marquee, no matter how many times you hoover, and no matter how many times, you just can't control the stuff. So my heart sinks when someone says, "Oh, I'm going to have a big urn of pampas grass." So there's my hate.
Florist with hay fever.
Yeah.
And pollen triggers my asthma, so I'm like antihistamine my life away when it comes to the summer. Do you have any flower input, or is it about as much input as I have on crystals?
Probably. Yeah.
Okay.
Although in saying that, I'll probably pay more attention. A lot of the weddings that I do, it's sort of the like midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning that the couple, if they're still there, are trying to pan off flowers on their guests. Take that, take that, take that. And I'll probably pay more attention to that now. It'll be interesting. I've got a wedding this weekend, so been to see what they've got. And then I've got 6 in May, so we'll see how that pans out. We'll probably now pay more attention to the flower side of things, but no, other than kind of thistles. I That's as far as my flower involvement goes. And actually, I've got a felt buttonhole thing that I wear usually, although it's had to be fixed because it's falling apart. I think these things get worn once and then they put away in the cupboard or something like that. Whereas I wear mine 2 or 3 times a week sometimes. And yeah, it was falling apart, but the person that made it, Bloom Bridal, was very good and took it away and did some like first aid on it and got it back the other day. So I'm looking forward to wearing that. I've got a wedding this weekend and I've got a wedding fair on Sunday, so yeah, I'll be paying more attention to the flowers, but no.
So we'll get a weekly flower update now from Shuggy on what he's doing at his wedding.
Yes, we need to know. I've got a wedding this week, which will be last week when this recording goes out, and the couple are in their 80s.
Oh wow!
And it'll be the bride's 82nd birthday on their wedding day.
Cool.
That's just. So, and what flowers? Oh, you probably can't tell us yet, can you? Because this is what flowers they're having. But how cute is that?
Because it'll go out after they're married.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah. So they are having pink and white roses and carnations, which I'm sure is no real surprise.
And how old is he? 30 something, is he?
51, and she'll be 82 on her wedding day.
How beautiful.
Yeah,
definitely.
I think that's really sweet. Really sweet.
And so, they said it's all Gen Z getting married or whatever we call them these days. So that's good to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. And that I think most of my couples are 40 plus. I don't know, 50% of my couples are probably 40 plus. So, and they're not usually in their 80s. in all fairness. She did say to me, "Am I your oldest bride?" And I said, "I think so."
Oh,
But it's not far. I have had some older couples, but yeah, I think she is my oldest bride.
you
And
see,
they're such fun to talk to.
I was going to say, no matter the age, no matter your love story, no matter who you are, who you're marrying, we'll always encourage you to get married, whether you're 18 or 80. It's a beautiful love story, right? I think that's great. I can't wait to hear all about that wedding.
Well, I will definitely tell you. I think it'll be one of the weddings of the year. I think they're just such good fun, and we were doing the music. I went to their appointment with them. We were doing the music list and picking songs for them, and then they happened to tell me that they like Meatloaf. And they're going to a Meatloaf tribute at our local music venue in May. So I told my mum and dad, and my mum and dad bought tickets for us. So we're all going to see Meatloaf.
Fantastic.
There we go.
Love it. Love
Right
it.
then, after you've heard my poor music taste, I think we'll wrap that up for tonight. So if anybody has any questions, anybody wants us to discuss any topics, then if you DM us on our Monday Musings socials or on any of our pages, Shuggies Kayla's, Decadence, or VIP Functions of Flowers, and we will discuss whatever you would like us to discuss. And we will be back next Monday, with another topic. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.